So I told you last week, and I promise I'm a man of my word, that we would talk about conspiracy theories, what you're really here for. Yeah, you want to know, who to draft, but truthfully, you're here to know what I think about JFK. I picked the easiest one to start off. I mean, I feel like that's not even a conspiracy anymore. I mean, Donald Trump almost just outed it not too long ago. But if you think that one person did that, good for you. Good on you to be so gullible and just like, oh, you just believe what they say and you just go with whatever bullshit was fed to you, and that's fine. But there's absolutely no way that was one person. The magic bullet is a ridiculous theory, but I don't know who did it, but I know that someone was involved. Obviously, someone was involved. It wasn't just Lee Harvey Oswald was like, I don't like this guy, I'm done with it. But if you look more into JFK, and I wasn't alive, I wasn't around, but listening to some of his speeches, and the man was coming for anybody who wanted to have power without any kind of oversight or anybody watching over them. He was not about doing things in secrecy. He was about doing things out in the open for all of the American people to see. He really wasn't about big business. He was about the middle class. He was about the little man. He was listening to his speeches, it's really inspirational. He kind of reminds me of Bernie Sanders. So I see why they killed him, but definitely someone killed him. Whether it was the American government, whether it was the Russians or the Cubans, I have no idea, but I know that someone coordinated a perfectly timed, this is the other part of it too. If you've got two snipers, let's say there was two, there might have been more, but let's just say there was two. They fired at the exact same time. They fired simultaneously, almost to the point to where people are like, well, if he was the best sniper in the world, he could have shot that quickly. But, I don't know if Lee Harvey Oswald was the best sniper in the world, but they've tried to recreate it a million times. I've watched it all. It's bullshit. Someone definitely killed JFK. I think we can all agree on that one. The next one that's pretty obvious to me, and it's getting more and more obvious. It's on my brain too because of the Joe Rogan recently sat down with Jeremy Corbyn, who did the documentary on Bob Lazar and is a UFO head. And I feel like at this point, if you believe that there aren't aliens, you're really naive. I've always kind of thought that the universe is so big and there's so much that we don't know about outer space that to imagine that we're the only one that would come up with habitable life is fucking insane. So I am definitely on board with aliens. I don't know. There's a couple different theories of what aliens are, where they come from. There's the theory that they have been here since forever, since the beginning of time as far as Earth is concerned, and they either crash landed here or they were the first ones to inhabit this Earth and we are a byproduct of them. They're kind of watching over us because we are them. They could live in the ocean, they could live under the pyramids. There's all kinds of crazy theories on that. That one's harder for me to believe because I truly think we have excelled enough in technology, at least over the last 50 years, that some of them would have come forward and said, we need to watch these little monkeys. They're getting a little too crazy. The other theory is, that they come from another planet, which I could totally understand. Bob Lazar's whole thing was talking about element 115, where it is it turns gravity inside out, I guess maybe is one way to put it, or that it uses gravity to pull. It creates its own gravity. It pushes away and can pull away without any propulsion, without any gas or engine, anything like that. It just uses time and space against itself so it can move willingly wherever it wants. That being a thing and being something that's on my mind makes me go, okay, then it's totally plausible that if that's what they were doing, if that's what they were using, this little anti-gravity, whatever it is, they could have definitely made it to a different planet. My issue is that traveling to another planet for us is so difficult. It's so beyond us at this point that it's out of my understanding. Not to say that other aliens did not figure this out and simple Josh just doesn't understand. That's totally plausible. But it's just hard for me to picture how they got so good at traveling from planet to planet. But if technology is so far advanced, then I could wrap my brain around the fact that they traveled from a distant galaxy, universe, whatever, and they've ended up here. And they're just kind of checking on us because we are a bunch of dumb apes. The last one that they kind of touched on in the recent Joe Rogan podcast I just brought up, and I maybe he's brought this up before, and it's a really interesting idea, is that if, let's say, in the year 3000 or 4000, so far in the future, right? Thousands of years from now. I mean, you look how far we've come in technology in 50 years. Think about how far we would come in 1,000 years, in 2,000 years. Is time travel a thing? Is going interdimensional, jumping through black holes? Is any of that a thing? I don't know, but I could wrap my brain around it. Sure. Yeah. Okay. So we get to 3000. Someone comes up with time travel and they say, you know what we need to do? Let's go back and look at the 1970s, the crustacean period. Let's go all the way back to the dinosaurs. Let's go see where we started. Let's go see where we messed up. Let's go see the point in time that was, because, you know, a lot of these UFO sightings are over war zones. They're over very famous locations in Israel and Jerusalem, where we have a lot of Christianity, historical sites. And so it's not beyond my thinking to go, okay, you know, that means that if it is us from the future and we're coming back, there are chances that we are not perfect. Humans are not perfect. We make a mistake. We crash land. And maybe the powers that be have found these crash landings, figured out that these aliens are us from a future distant galaxy. And maybe they've worked it out. Maybe, you know, the big thing that I think pisses everybody off with this UFO, and even Jeremy Corbyn brings it up too, we should know this stuff. I think the American people are smarter than they give us credit for now. It was maybe different back in the 50s where you went, oh, yes, JFK was murdered by one man. That's unfortunate. I'm sad and I will move on. You know, now we don't accept anything. I think that's the biggest thing with conspiracies nowadays. That's me personally. I'm of the Eddie Bravo mindset, which is don't believe shit. Don't believe anything that they fucking tell you. They have a lot of reasons to lie. They don't have a lot of reasons to tell us the truth. What are the reasons to lie? Well, they don't want mass hysteria. They don't want people to abandon a lot of what makes this country what it is, which is the religious background, that culture that is very much in the 1%. I mean, all of the right-wing people are usually on the Christian side that are very faithful. And I could see all of a sudden aliens are a thing. Now you've got maybe a third of the church that goes, what? Huh? So we didn't come from what you said we came from. We possibly came from these things, and there's other things out there. And did God create them? There's a lot of question marks to get brought up if you're a religious person. And all of a sudden, UFOs are real. So there's that. There's, what are they doing with this? You know, Bob Lazar was talking about they were trying to deconstruct, they were trying to reverse engineer and figure out how to use this element 115. So for the government that's maybe trying to turn this into a weapon or something far greater than we know, the letting it out there to the public just is like, no. We're going to keep this for ourselves. We're going to figure it out. And then they can know about it later whenever we have a dumbed down version of it, AKA our phones. You think they didn't have cell phones before we had cell phones? They had cell phones before we had cell phones. Okay, people? I'm sorry you can't see my crotch anymore. You can't see my pasty white legs. I cut all that out. I'm trying to get a little closer to the dome, trying to let you see the moneymaker. But yeah, let's go moon landing. Oh, man. Okay. This one I've watched a lot on, and again, with all of them, it's not that I have some It's not that I can say like, this is what happened. This is just my brain goes, oh yeah, that is a little, So you're telling me in 1969 that we figured out flight. I think it's somewhere in the 20s. We figured it out somewhere in the 20s. We figured out flight, the Wright brothers did. And it was very dodgy at the first 10 years of flight. It was not a foolproof thing. Lots of planes fell out of the sky. Lots of things happened. Lots of people died and all of that. But you're telling me, so what you're telling me is that we barely have figured out flight in the last 40, 50 years, but somehow they strapped a rocket to a plane, shot the rocket off at the perfect trajectory, and then it went up. They got into the moon's orbit. They dropped a module outside of it, landed it on the moon, went out, walked around, planted a flag, went back to the ship, and then somehow got the ship back home. Now, I will say with all of the space, aliens, moon landing, flat Earth is next, you have to accept the fact that NASA might be lying to you. And you got to start, that's step one. You have to let your mind go to the point that it's possible that NASA's lying to you, that every single thing that NASA has put out has been a lie. Now, I understand that that's a lot of people that you got to get to lie. It's not like you just have 3 people from NASA that are telling us all this. It's not like Neil Armstrong was like, this is what happened and that's it. Don't ask anyone else any questions. There's lots of people that work on all this. There's lots of people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I am not going to sit here and pretend like that was not real and that they did not do that. I'm not even going to sit here and tell you that we haven't landed on the moon. I think we have. I'm just saying in 1969, there was a race with us and Russia to get to the moon. And if you look at the Stanley Kubrick conspiracy that he, 2001 A Space Odyssey, I think it is, or maybe it was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Again, I'm not an old person. Well, I am, but I'm not that old. And I don't know which movie it was, but I know that there's the theory that he got some astronomical number to make this movie, a number that had never been given to a director before, a huge amount of money in that time. And a lot of people think, and if you watch the movie, you go, wow, where did all that money go into this movie? The special effects and everything are not, I know it was back in the day, it was 1969, but it's not anything to write home about. And so a lot of people have the theory that he took some of that money to shoot the moon landing. And there's a lot of strange footage of the moon landing that looks a little dicey, that's got people kind of defying the laws of gravity, even on the moon. There's a lot of question marks that I have. And it's hard for me to say, okay, so we just now figured out flight and you're telling me that we figured this out, this very complex thing. That was Apollo 11. You look at Apollo 13 after that, where they were going to the moon and then shit went astronomically wrong. I think that at some point we did land on the moon. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't think we figured this stuff out. I think we probably have. There's a lot of people that work in NASA that would kill me for saying what I'm saying. But do we think that in 1969 they actually landed on the moon? I do not. I think it was a film by Stanley Kubrick, and a lot of people were paid a lot of money to keep their mouths shut. Again, that's the part of it that's the part of flat Earth that I think I kind of fell out on. That's my next one I got in there is flat Earth. I was a flat earther for about 10 days. I was on it for a while. I watched the video there was one of the big, I forget his name, but he was a huge flat earther for a long time. He was one of the main guys, and he got to go up above the atmosphere. He hired a pilot or somebody to take him up above the atmosphere and look. And he saw the curve himself and he starts crying. He comes down and he's like, it's all a lie. I was wrong. And just watching that video, I was like, oh man, well, I was in on this, but not if this guy's out. And the flat earth, it's hard to really wrap your head around. Like, what do they really do? They think that you get to a point and you just fall off. A lot of them think that it's like plates that are sitting right next to each other, and that's why in the Pacific Ocean you kind of cross over that, and in the Atlantic Ocean you kind of cross over one of those things, one of those plates. And I mean, I was on for about 10 days. I'm like, oh, okay, because again, I'm of the Eddie Bravo life where I don't believe shit. And I don't believe NASA on a lot of things. I mean, some of these pictures that we have of the globe, wow. Okay, maybe it's real. Maybe. If I told an artist to draw the globe, okay, I told a really good artist to draw the globe. I don't know. Can you see where my brain's going? I can see where maybe an artist just drew this, and maybe it's not exactly what they want us to believe it looks like. And I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe that's all real. There's an International Space Station. There's all these things. It's hard for me to believe they're making all of that up. We have crashes from, pieces of stuff that went up into the atmosphere and came down. We have the Challenger that blew up. We have things that really happened. So that one's tough. Flat Earth, no go for me. Moon landing, aliens, JFK, all three conspiracies that are proven right here on the Waiver Wire. The next one is touchy. Let me tell you, I lived in New York for 4 years. I would try to have this conversation with people about 9/11. It does not go over well in New York. I'll tell you that much. It probably won't go over here right now with no one around. Somebody will come from outside and say, hey, you shut your fucking mouth. But 9/11 to me, man, so much to unpack. I'm not going to go into everything. I'll just say that if you have watched the conspiracy theory stuff on it, first of all, the Pentagon, very strange, very, very strange. The fact that a plane caused that strange hole/damage is very hard for him to believe. The fact that the only footage that's found from that crash is from I think it's like a toll booth or a little entry cam to like a parking lot where they have a side version where you see all you see is a flash come in. You don't see a plane. You can't really see a full version of a plane. It very well could have been a missile. There's a lot to unpack on this. So I am a simple man that is a server. I am not a engineer. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an astronaut. I'm not any of these things, but I have my opinions, and I will tell you. It is very hard for me to believe a building that size. I myself, I went in the Empire State Building. I did not go in the Freedom Tower, but I saw the Freedom Tower up close. And when you see these buildings up close, it's phenomenal. To be inside the elevator of the Empire State Building was incredible. For the amount of time you're in the elevator, to realize how many stories that you've gone up. And then when you get up on top of it and you look down, you're like, wow, holy shit. Is this safe? How did someone create this? To think that a fire in the middle of the building, it's almost impossible for me to believe, okay? It's impossible for me to believe that a fire burnt the middle of the building to where it collapsed straight down on itself. I have to assume that they had their reasons. I don't know what the reasons are. We immediately got into a war that was profitable for at least the government. The armed forces will tell you that was not a bad thing. They got a huge budget increase because now we're going to war. War does other things too, where it brings the country together. I think we can all attest to that in 2001 when that happened. There was not a single person that blamed George W. Bush for attacking Baghdad that night that he did. He did not have the okay from everybody that he needed. He did not have the full permission of the Senate or whoever he was supposed to have. And he just went and did it. And the American people didn't bat an eye. I didn't bat an eye. I thought, if that's who did this, let's go kill them. But then, more strange things of Was he trying to finish his dad's war from the Gulf War? Was he trying to just go and get Saddam because his dad didn't? Why did we go into Iraq if it was Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan and the Taliban? Why did we, they were maybe aiding Osama bin Laden, but it wasn't necessarily Saddam Hussein that did the attack. But we said there were weapons of mass destruction over there. We could see them with binoculars. So we walked over and said, oh, that's not a weapon of mass destruction. It's a camel. And we just killed everybody anyways. A lot unknown, lot that I'm trying to unpack for you, but I don't know, man. The Tower 7 that fell literally on its own. You can tell me there were fires all around there, but it literally fell on its own. The footage that is hard to find now of people being interviewed saying, there was the crash and we're all watching it, and then the bombs went off. And then we heard the bombs go off. And then we heard the bombs go off. Okay, well, that's a little dicey on what were the bomb, and then the buildings collapsed after the bombs went off. The bombs went off. You can say to me, oh, that was the structure collapsing on itself and it just sounded that loud. You can say that was fires, that the inside of the building was collapsing in on itself. So there were huge structures that were falling on the inside before you saw the outside fall. That's even harder for me to believe. I don't know the way these are engineered, but if any part of the middle fell out from this building, I have to assume you would see a collapse somewhere else. But it literally looked like it was demolished. Like how when they set off the demolish and it just boop, 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 and then you let them all go. That's what it looked like. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why George W. acted so calm when they whispered in his ear in front of those kids. There's a lot of questions of how these men even got on planes. A lot of questions, a lot of unknown, a lot that I'm touching on people that died. So it's a very sensitive subject. There are people that are connected to this that will never listen to this conspiracy. I don't know if we ever actually will get the truth on this because I think it is so convoluted. Maybe it was a conspiracy of many different things happening at once. Maybe not only did the Taliban actually have this plan, but maybe the NSA or the CIA, the FBI, they found out about it and maybe helped the whole process along because of all the other things I named, because they wanted to go to war, because they wanted to bring the country together, because they blah, 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 blah. I don't know. But what I do know is it did not look like a natural thing to me. It did not seem like, oh yeah, this is just what would happen if you ran a plane into a building. I just, it's hard for me to believe that. So 9/11's a touchy one, but I'm definitely on board with that conspiracy. I definitely believe that has some merit to you need to look into it before you just go, no, that's what happened. And the next one I have on there is the Illuminati. I don't know if they're called the Illuminati, but I definitely believe that there are, you look at the Masons, there are groups, foundations, there are secret organizations that exist. I don't think that's hard to wrap your head around. I think that's a pretty straightforward idea. I think that most people would agree with you on that. I don't know if they're called Illuminati, but I know there's a secret. What was the one that Alex Jones said that he went to? He went to the group of, I lost it. But yeah, there are definitely secret groups out there, and the Illuminati definitely could be one. And it doesn't go out of my mind to say, oh, what, none of them have ever spoke up. Somebody might have, and they might not have made it out of it alive. Who knows? But Illuminati, I'm on board with that. Chemtrails, man, this one's dark and deep, and the more you look into it, the more you think about it, you're like, wow, is that really what's going on? The weather is very unpredictable. I live here in Houston where it's hot as balls all the time. We get these random showers of rain that come in. We get hurricanes that come in. We've had, Hurricane Harvey, which did a lot of destruction. We've had some interesting things happen in this city. is the government out there spraying things in the air to control the weather? Again, I'm not a scientist, but I see why they would want to. You know, I get the reasoning, and I get that they definitely want to control. They want control. Just like with bitch ass COVID that just showed up. They want control. They want to put you in a where they consider it that they have us under their control. The quarantine, the masks, all of that was a test to see what will they do. Okay, so if we put a virus out there, we can get enough of them to freak out that we shut down the fucking country, which has done. Oh, good job on the stimulus checks that you handed out. Look what it fucking did to the country. They just want control. They don't want to give it back. So if they do start any of these things like chemtrails or whatever, they're not going to stop doing it. They're just going to keep doing it. So I don't know why they would want this. I don't know what benefit they would get from controlling either controlling the weather, or the other concept is too that the chemtrails they're spraying stuff in the air to get into our lungs and to give people cancer, to give people whatever it is, growth. Some people think that that's what they were doing in America, where they were going around spraying HGH and shit in the air so that we would become bigger, faster, and stronger. I'm on board. I can get behind it. But that one's tough. That one's tough for me to understand. Another one that's tough for me to understand. I've talked about this for 30 minutes. It's hilarious. Another one that's tough for me to understand is that people are talking about birds. Are birds real? And are there drones instead of birds? That all the birds are drones and they're controlled by the American government just to watch over us. Wow. I like it. I like when people go here. Do I think that all birds are drones? No, I don't think so. I think that's very far-fetched. That's very hard to believe. It's almost impossible for me to believe. Not totally impossible, but almost impossible. I'll say that I could wrap my head around that maybe you infiltrate like one bird into a group of birds. I don't know how the other birds wouldn't be like, what's up with this guy? Like, he doesn't say much, and I don't ever see him eating anything, but this bird's a little strange. Also, people shoot birds. So if we're saying that, it's not the birds that you hunt, it's just like pigeons and shit like that, people kill those too. So hard for me to say that there hasn't been somebody that shot a robot bird down out of the sky and went, oh my God, look at this. But that being said, I hope so. I hope there's a hunter out there that kills a robot bird and lets me see it on the internet. That'd be fantastic. So that's what I'm hoping for.